and welcome back to NJ Fire Guys. This is run number 6 for 2025, and our guest is Jason Rivera of the New Haven Fire Department. Jason Rivera is a 31-year veteran of the Fire Service and has served in career and volunteer departments, starting in Boonton, New Jersey. Jason began his career service with the Picatinny Arsenal Fire Department, where he worked until leaving in 2014 for Stamford, Connecticut. He retired from Stamford, Connecticut in 2014 after 14 years, while serving as captain of Rescue Company 1 and acting deputy chief. He is currently a firefighter in the New Haven, Connecticut Fire Department, assigned to Special Operations Firehouse. He is a current lieutenant and past chief of the Newtown, Connecticut Hook and Ladder Fire Company, a firefighter in Christiana, Delaware, and a rescue specialist with the FEMA USAR Massachusetts Task Force 1. Jason is a ProBoard certified fire instructor level 3, has presented at FDIC International since 2017, and has taught across the country and internationally. Jason is the owner and founder of Tactical Resource Fire Training LLC, a fire training service focusing on fireground and rescue company disciplines, as well as special operations. He also teaches for Fast Rescue Solutions in Philadelphia and Capital Fire Training LLC in Maryland. Jason has been published multiple times in Fire Engineering Magazine and was the recipient of the 2016 Ray Downey Courage and Valor Award at FDIC. Without further interruption, I'd like to introduce Jason Rivera. How are you, brother? How's it going?
How are you doing, Nick?
Another day.
I hear you.
All right, man. So, it's a long time coming. I've been trying to get you on the show. Schedules conflicting and, different things going on at work. And
life is crazy.
Don't I know it? All right, man. So where'd you grow up? What brought you to the fire service? And we'll start from there.
All right. So let's see. It's going back quite a ways now. So originally from Boonton Township, New Jersey, not to be confused with Boonton.
All right. So is that the pale trucks, or is that
the Boonton is the palish, greenish, whitish, whatever you want to call it. They're unique color. I think Morris Plains has similar color.
Yeah, it's like a cream color, right?
Yeah, cream color. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah. And Boonton Township is red. So yeah, grew up in Boonton Township. I was born in 1977. I know, a long time ago. And I went to Mountain Lakes High School, and sophomore year, so I think I was about 16, I kind of knew some kids were volunteering here and there, ride my bike past the firehouse all the time. And I was like, that'd be kind of cool. And then, you get community service hours. I said, I'll give this a try. I'm 16 years old. What else I got going on? Other than sports, I was big into baseball and hanging out with friends and stuff like that. But I said, I'll join the firehouse. So I did. And literally, like, it's an addiction. Like, right off the bat, I knew, I'm like, this is for me. Obviously at 16, you're very limited to what you can do, what you're allowed to do. I mean, those days were a little bit different back then than now, where you're allowed to do a little bit more back then, but you're very limited. But I just fell in love with it. And I would say within a year, I was like, you know what? I want to look into doing this for a living. Like, I don't want to put a suit and tie on every day and go work in an office. I want to be a fireman. This is pretty cool. So kept volunteering, took Fire 1, Fire 2 at the Morris County Fire Academy, graduated high school. I went to Jersey City State, as it was known at the time. I think it's New Jersey University now.
New Jersey City University, something like that.
Yeah. So I went there for a year, and I enjoyed like the social aspect of high school. I wasn't like, yay, I love school. So college was living at home. Going there was kind of more of the same, which was probably my own fault. I probably should have gone away and lived the real college life. But I didn't. So, because I didn't want to miss any calls in Boonton Township, because, we were responding to a whole 2 calls a week. So, you don't want to miss And yeah, I just got really, really lucky, and I applied to Picatinny Arsenal, which obviously you are very familiar with.
Very.
I got hired there after my first year in college was complete. I got hired there as a full-time temporary firefighter. So doing the 72-hour work week, 24 on, 24 off, which I know you're familiar with. Or were you there for those, or were you there for after the change?
So I was there during the change.
I
was there during the battles in the union meetings of it was literally the votes would come down to one person either way. I mean, they got heated.
Yep, that's tough. So yeah, I was doing the 24 on, 24 off, and as a temp, we got the 3-day break every 2 weeks, but we didn't get the 5-day break every whatever. I don't remember anymore when it was, but we weren't entitled to that. So yeah, I did that for 2 years, and then as a temporary, once you finish your 2 years, it's like, yeah, there's the gate. Have a nice day. Like, you're done here. So they let me go.
Now, who were some of the guys there at the time?
So the
fire
chief was John Dahl, right from Rockaway Township. That's before your time.
Way before, yeah.
Yeah, he had worked on the base, I believe, not in the fire department, but outside, and then he transferred over as the chief. He was like a Rockaway Township legend, I think. Jack Dahl, I believe. Who else was there? Steve Kolb, Kolb. He was one of the assistant chiefs. Rich Bazzari.
So Rich left and then came back when I got hired. We started on the same day.
Yup. Yeah, I became pretty close with Rich. We used to talk all the time and hang out, and
great guy. Big
fisherman.
Yeah.
Big volley in Roxbury too, if I remember correctly. Who else was there? Keith Brown, Roger McCollum, Chris Barella.
Yeah.
Chris was he was my Fire 1 and 2 instructor. That's kind of how I learned about the whole, this job is opening, you should apply. There was some old time, a lot of guys from the Milford, PA, Matamoros, Port Jervis area. Like, I'd say half the job was from there. There was tons of guys from that area.
Yep.
So I did my 2 years there, and then they said, see you later. So off I went. I was only 21 at the time, and I was like, what the hell am I going to do with myself? And this was like in the infancy of like the internet. So I barely knew what to do. And luckily I got hired, I think within a week of leaving that job, I got hired as a dispatcher for Mountain Lakes Police. We dispatched Mountain Lakes and Boonton Township PD and FD. I had taken some tests in Connecticut because obviously, as everyone knows, New Jersey is very difficult to get hired in. Not being a veteran and growing up in Boonton Township, in a volunteer town, it's very, very difficult. So I kind of started broadening my horizons. I said, Connecticut, that's not that far. So I remember I took Stamford, Connecticut's test.
So what was the draw to Connecticut?
No residency requirements.
Okay.
Not commutable, but close enough that I wouldn't be moving across the country.
Yeah. You could get back to your family.
Yeah, but close enough but far enough that just different rules.
Yeah.
Really, other than a few cities here and there, there's essentially, at least back then, no residency. I know some things have changed, like they give residency points now. That was not a thing back then.
Yeah.
So I remember I took a handful of tests up in Connecticut, and one day a letter showed up from Stamford, Connecticut, saying that I think I'd come out like number 8, and they were hiring, I think it was 12 or 15 at the time. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. So I had done a few months of dispatching for Mountain Lakes, which we were talking before the show. That was an interesting job back then, because now that I think they're dispatched by the county. Back then, if you were sitting the desk, you take a phone call from like ADT for an automatic fire alarm. If it was in Mountain Lakes, you'd call a cop in off the street to cover the desk so you could run out to the bay floor and grab the engine and drive the engine to the scene by yourself. obviously those days are over. But it was pretty cool. It was like that for years too, like way before I worked there.
That's wild.
Yeah. So part of the job of a dispatcher is you had to go out with the fire chief and get signed off to drive and pump the engine. Their fire chief was also a police sergeant who everyone knew him back in our high school days. When he was on patrol, if you were doing something maybe you shouldn't have been doing in high school, you'd want to avoid running into him. But he's an awesome dude. So he would like qualify you to drive and pump the engine, and yeah, you would kind of dual roll it.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was definitely wild. It was different times back then. Yeah, and then I ended up getting hired in Stamford, so I only did 3 months maybe as a dispatcher, and then packed up. And when I took Stamford test, I didn't even know where it was. I had to like break out the map, like the multi-folding map that you could never get to fold back up again, or a Hagstra map or whatever. And I was like, where the hell is Stamford? And it turned out only from my parents' house, an hour and a half tops, without traffic, which isn't really a thing. It's probably less. It's about an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So off to Stamford I went in August of '98.
Okay.
So went there. Went through an academy there, which was fine. I was 21 years old. Couldn't have been more thrilled to, kind of start living out my dream of what I wanted to do. I worked there for 14 years. I made lieutenant within, I think, my sixth or seventh year. I made lieutenant, and then about 2 years later, I made captain. Now,
what was the makeup of Stamford Fire Department when you got there, and like the city as a whole?
I can tell you, growing up in Boonton Township, and I was the guy who like never wanted to leave Boonton Township. 21 years of my life, I like never wanted to leave Boonton Township. Then picking up and moving up to Stamford, which people don't understand, it's a high-rise city. It's like a mini Manhattan. The tallest building there now, I believe, is 30-something stories. They have literally dozens and dozens of buildings that are 20 plus. Okay. It was a eye-opening, like, I was like, coming from Boonton Township, going there, it was a culture shock. Like crimes occurring, bad things happening, shootings, fires, like that stuff never happened in Boonton Township. So it was definitely an eye-opening experience.
Okay. So how many how big's the city? How many firehouses, guys on duty?
It's an interesting, the fire service there is interesting. It is actually a combination system, but at the risk of saying something that'll upset some people, it's a combination system that really doesn't work. You have your career department downtown, which when I started was 5 engines, 3 trucks, and the rescue. Okay. Then you had 5 outlying volunteer districts. They were known as the Big 5. One of them, when I started, had a career engine, a career city engine in the volunteer firehouse. Several of them had their own career staff. Basically, like, they were not city employees. They were paid for by the fire company, but within a short period of time of me working there, they got absorbed into the city as city employees. But there was one volunteer district at the very, very north end. So, like I said, downtown's like 20 and 30-story buildings. If you drive 20 minutes north, you would think you're in Boonton Township. It is windy country roads, single-family dwellings, some of them like 8,000, 10,000 square foot, like beautiful mansions. Like it's completely different than what downtown is. They have volunteers up there that were supplemented by, I believe they had 2 firehouses, and each had 1 paid or maybe 2 paid guys. And I believe to this day, they are still employees of the fire company, not of the city. Then as you progress more towards downtown, it gets more suburban than rural, then more urban than suburban, and it just kind of grows. Currently, so as I was there, it grew. It became 7 engine. No, I'm sorry. When I started, it was 7 engines. Let me correct myself. It was 7
you were there
engines
14, almost 15 years, right?
What's that?
You were there almost like 15 years.
16 years I did, yeah.
Okay.
When I split, yeah, let me correct myself. It was 7 engines, 3 trucks in the rescue. 5 were downtown. Then a 6th was downtown for a while until it got relocated up north. And then a 7th was in a volunteer district. They added 2 more engines in my time there. And that's where it stands now. 9 engines, 3 trucks, and the rescue. But several of those engines operate out of volunteer houses.
In the outer
area, yeah, which is a very interesting dynamic.
I can imagine.
Especially there, because there is a lot. I've been out of there 11 years, but there was some very contentious relationships there.
Okay.
But essentially, you're a guest. They own the firehouse. You're a guest in their firehouse.
And now, so those guys are now city employees.
Yes.
Not the fire. Okay.
Yes, but the volunteers are still the volunteers.
Yeah. And it's still their house.
And the way the charter was written is that the volunteers, basically, you could be a captain on the engine and you are technically outranked in their district by a probationary volunteer firefighter because it's their district, they're in charge. Yeah, yes, like our deputy chief, the shift commander, would respond there for, say, a reported house fire. If a volunteer lieutenant was there, the volunteer lieutenant technically could tell the chief, I'm command, it's my district. You can see how this can lead to issues.
Yeah. But the fire service, thank God the fire service doesn't have those type of issues.
Oh, none at all. From what I understand, things have gotten better. Stamford actually opened only a couple months ago a 2nd deputy chief. So now you have a south and a north deputy chief. Because the deputy chief running out of downtown, he'd be responding to fire alarms in the North Country that were 15 and 20-minute responses.
Yeah, you were saying.
Now you're way out of position when something comes in downtown. So it took years and years and years and years. Rex Morris, now the chief of Stamford, has made a lot of positive changes to that place in a relatively short time, and that was a big one. So yeah, that's where they are now. I actually FDIC back in April, I ran into a couple guys from Stamford that were there when I was there, and we went out for a couple of drinks, and from talking to them, things have gotten much better. So I'm happy to see them on like a positive track they got a lot of really good guys in all the way from upper management down to like mid-level management. They got a lot of younger go-getter lieutenants and captains now, good guys as deputy chief. So it was an interesting time when I got hired. I have nothing bad to say about that place whatsoever during my time there. But for instance, my first shift in the firehouse, I walk in, I'm a 21-year-old kid. My eyes are like this. I'm like, oh my God. I'm riding a fire truck with a 73-year-old guy. I was like, wow. There was no mandatory retirement age at the time.
Wow.
And he was not the only one in his 70s still there.
That's wild.
That was wild as well.
So now the retirement, because you're retired from Stamford.
Yes. So how's that work?
Yeah.
So New Jersey, I assume, is a state pension system.
Yes.
So Connecticut, although there is a state pension system, but most cities have their own pension system. So in Stamford, per their contract, once you hit 15 years, you are vested. If you leave within year 15 and year 20, you can start collecting your pension when you hit what would have been year 20. So one guy I remember from back in the day, he left with basically 19 years and 364 days. So basically he could start collecting his pension the next day because that would have been his 20th anniversary, and he got hired down in Georgia. Gotcha. I left with 16, so I had to wait 4 years, and then I started collecting my pension. In New Haven now, I'm working on my second pension, so someday when I wrap things up there and decide that's it, I'll be collecting 2 pensions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how the system works. Definitely different. Because I travel all over the place, and guys are like, "How in the world are you working on a second?
How are you retired?"
Exactly. Yeah, it's different.
All right. So what Is that where you started getting it? Because you were in the rescue company, you were captain. So is that where you started getting into tech rescue and technical disciplines?
So yeah, in Stanford, generally when you get out of the academy, everyone goes to headquarters downtown.
Okay.
But then you only stay there usually until the next class comes, and then the new people come and you get bounced out. So
Okay.
that's kind of what happened to me. I was there only maybe 6 months. I got bounced out to Engine 3, which was a great place to go. It's one of the last few ghettos in Stanford. It's one of the last few places that gets fires regularly, and it's not all sprinklered high rises and white collar people and all that. It's what most of us join the fire service to go to. So I did a couple years there, and then I ended up going over to the rescue as a private. There was openings, and at the time there was a kind of a restructuring of the rescue. It was leaving downtown, and they were putting it in a different firehouse to kind of get them out of the hubbub of being downtown and all that nonsense. There's put them, they'll still be downtown, quote unquote, but on the edge of it.
Okay.
More time to train, etc. So there was a restructuring, and they basically said, oh, whoever wants to go to the rescue, you more or less have to apply. Send us your resume, tell us why you want to go, etc. So I did, and I got picked, and I went over there as a firefighter. Did a few years there as a firefighter. I surrounded myself with a lot of real go-getter guys that were moving up the ranks very quickly, getting promoted to lieutenant. You had to have a minimum of 5 years. Guys that were making that jump 5-6 years on the job. Those were my friends. And, you kind of become like your surroundings. And I kind of started the same track. And I got promoted. I think it was only 6 years on the job. Maybe I made lieutenant, and I was lucky enough to stay at the rescue just on a different shift as lieutenant. So yeah, coming up through the rescue, that was my real introduction to things like rope rescue and all tech rescue disciplines, vehicle extrication, confined space, etc.
Okay. Now, were you doing any of that in Boonton before you moved up there? Or?
No, Boonton Township is they handle what they handle. They handle the basics of firefighting, vehicle extrication. Obviously, there's different challenges there, like no hydrants. Rural water supply is a huge issue, especially when you're dealing with 10,000 square foot houses on dead end streets. They have, but other than vehicle extrication, Morris County, I don't know how many. I know there are places that are into things like rope rescue, but Boonton Township was definitely not one of them. It's a rural fire department that deals with rural fire department problems and issues. So yeah, going to Stanford was really my first exposure to that. Started taking state classes, all the ProBoard certs for all the tech rescue disciplines. Realized that I kind of liked it. This was fun stuff. Really started in-house and started taking the state classes and start knocking off one cert after the next. And next thing you know, oh wow, look, I got all my tech rescue disciplines. And I was only a lieutenant for a short period of time. One of the duties of a lieutenant in Stanford is you have to rotate up and be the 911 supervisor for fire dispatch, which leaving a firehouse to go do that on a backwards rotating schedule, like you work 3 midnights, then you're off a few days, then 3 evening shifts, then you're off a few days, then 3 day shifts, and you're off a few days, and you're back on midnights. Leaving the firehouse to do that is rough. How long
did you have to go do that for?
So you're up there for 6 months, and then you get a 1.5 break, and you do it again. So that was a huge motivator to study for the captain's test.
I was going to say that's a huge motivator to motor promote.
Yeah. So I only did 1 rotation up there, and I got promoted to captain. There was no opening at the rescue for that, so I wrote it Engine 4 for a while, for I think 3 or 4 years as captain. Not the busiest engine, a lot of EMS, some fire duty. We actually had a couple pretty significant. Well, we had some significant fires there. I was not at Engine 4 that night, but if anyone heard of the Stanford Christmas Day fire, where the 2 grandparents and the 3 children all died Christmas morning in a mansion fire, that was Engine 4's first due. I was assigned Engine 4 at the time. It was my off shift. I was on overtime that night and ended up at that fire, but I was working in an outer house that night. But Engine 4, that was their district. Yeah, I did 4 years there. Went
Now,
over.
what kind of schedules do you guys work in Stamford?
So I was there for also the transition.
Okay.
I was there. My first 6 years was 3 days on, 3 days off, 3 nights on, 3 days off, 10-hour days, 14-hour nights. It works out to 42 hours a week. It's the equivalent of a 24/72, just broken up. So my first 6 years were that, and then we transitioned to the 24/72, which, similar to what you were saying with the shift to Picatinny, guys were, I don't want to change. I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't want to be home that much. There was all kinds of ridiculous arguments.
Oh, we had guys, because we were going from 1 on, 1 off, 1 on, 1 off to 48 on, 48 off. We had guys saying, my wife will leave me, my kids will disown me. I was like, wow.
I don't know how I feel about that schedule. 48 on.
You know,
like, I do it occasionally now for like overtime, but for that to be your regular, oof.
You know what though? But you work the 24/24. So literally every day except for your 3-day break, you were in the firehouse. Whether you were coming or going, every morning you were having coffee in the firehouse. And you know, that wears on you. At least here, at least with the 48, you can wake up and have breakfast with your kid.
Yeah, that's
like,
I definitely see the positive of that.
And
being like 19, 20 years old when I was on the 24/24, like, when do I get to hang out with my friends and not have to think about getting up in the morning and go to work? Like,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, so when I got on at Fort Monmouth as a term, when the base was when the base was bracked and getting closed, I got hired as a term. There was 3/4 of the department was 20, early 20s kids and young men. And it was the same thing. It was like we were making swaps just so that we could go out on a Friday night. Like,
yep.
But that was
a tough schedule no matter how you cut it.
It's tough. 72 hours a week is tough, man.
Yes, it's really not right to put guys in the firehouse forced that much. It's crazy.
And I mean, if it ever happens where I have a DoD fire podcast, the air will be aired out. 9.5 years, and that will happen, and it will be aired out.
Going from a 72-hour work week to a 42-hour work week, I mean, it's two different worlds.
I'm sure it's glorious. You don't know what to do with yourself.
No, it's a lot of time off.
I can't imagine going to a Monday to Friday job.
No, and like I've considered in the back of my head, like taking a test to go over to the training division, but I really don't want to work 5 days a week.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I like joke around with guys that work 5 days a week. I'm like, how do you get anything done? I can't go to Costco on a Saturday. Please, a man out.
Like, when do you even get like a haircut?
No, I don't know. I cut my own hair because I don't got a lot. But
wow, when do you go to the dentist?
No, I hear you. I hear exactly. I don't know how you get anything done when you're working 5 days a week. Crazy. I'm spoiled. Like, I don't know what to say.
All right. So anyway, what was that? How was that transition once it happened?
Every naysayer within like 2 months was like, "This is the greatest thing ever. Why didn't we do this a long time ago?" And what's funny is I'm literally reliving this right now in New Haven. We worked 3 on, 3 off since I started 11 years ago, and we don't have a contract now. And one of the top priorities per the membership vote was that we want to explore 24/72 or some variation of that.
Okay.
And I'm hearing it's like reliving many, many years ago, the same naysayers and the same reasons why. And I just tell guys, because I work a lot of overtime in a lot of different firehouses, I say, guys, I understand your apprehension in this. I went through this 15 years ago. I promise you, if we do go to this, you will have no regrets about it. Like, you find there's a reason. I think we may be the last or second to last department in Connecticut to not be on it. Everyone else has gone to it. Nobody's gone back. You'd be very hard pressed to find someone who would say they hate the 24/72.
So when we went, when we were up, when I was up in Picatinny and we went from the 24-24 to 48-48, it was a 1 year. The agreement we made at the union level, because management was great at the time. They were on board with whatever we wanted, as long as we were all on board with it. So the union, we made hey, this is going to be a 1 year trial. I think we got, so in that 48-48, every 7 pay periods, so it works out to every 15 weeks, you get an 8-day break built into your schedule.
Oh, wow.
So you get 4 8-day breaks built into your schedule a year.
8 days is a lot.
Dude, I'm sure you know some of the guys, but one of the guys came back to the work after his first 8-day break and he was like, dude, we got to get rid of this schedule because I can't deal with my wife. He goes, I couldn't wait to come back to work.
I tell you, that's one of the reasons guys don't want to switch. They're like, I don't want to be home that much. But I can't be home every night.
At the end of the year, it was unanimous. Oh, the one guy did stand up and he was like, hey, he goes, I see, I see the greater good. I see that everybody in the department is happier with this schedule and everybody's lives are better. But he lived right outside the gate. So every day he got to see his kids grow up. Every day he got to have breakfast with his daughters. And he's like, to me, this didn't help my life. He goes, but I see the greater good. So I'm going to abstain from voting.
Okay.
And I respect that. And I respected that a lot. But everybody else unanimously loved the new schedule. So if you're working a 72-hour week, 48-48 is the way to go. Absolutely.
If you say so.
Working a 72-hour work week.
I'm just 72.
All right. So you take the test for captain. You get promoted. You said went to engine 4.
I was at engine 4 for 4 years. Made my way downtown for a brief period. Then I was asked, do you want to stay downtown? Which I liked. I liked being downtown because you get new guys, you get to mentor newer people, all that good stuff. Or do you want to go back to the rescue? I was like, well, let me think about it. And then I think like that night, the rescue went to an extrication that we didn't go to. I'm like, that's it. I'm going back to the rescue.
I'm going back.
I'm going back. So yeah, I went back. During my time back at the rescue, I had ideas running through my head of, fires are down. I've been here at that point for probably 14-ish years, 13 years. I was like, I'm not getting any younger. I was starting to act in the car a lot, which, again, surrounding myself with go-getters is very motivating. But I almost kind of felt like I was outpacing my career compared to where I wanted to be. Okay. Like, I'm only in my 30s and I'm standing at a command board. Yeah. Like, I'm even as the captain, I'm going to an extrication and I'm watching the guys do their thing. I don't need to direct them. They're solid firemen. Now, I'm becoming a spectator.
How did you get put into that role? Were you the senior captain at that point, or was it the deputy was riding out of the same house so that when you were there and he wasn't, you were in the car? Like, how did you get put in that position?
I took the deputy chief test. My own fault.
Oh, okay.
I took the test. I think I came out number 3. The deputy chief on my shift was older, at the tail end of his career, using a ton of his vacation time, so he just wasn't there that much. So I was the top of the list on deputy, and I would just get slid over there. So I was like, I almost got enough time to leave with the pension like we talked about. I said, let me start looking at other places that, maybe go to more fires and are just busier in general. So I did. Started taking tests, didn't talk about it too much, but then when lists would come out, they're public information, and guys are, you can't keep a secret in the firehouse for more than, a day or two. And
telephone, tell a fireman.
Exactly. It gets out there and guys are like, hey, I saw you're real high on New Haven's list. I was like, oh, yeah, maybe.
Did I take that test?
What's that?
Did I take that test?
Yeah, it must be another Jason Rivera. I don't know. That's not me. And again, it was nothing. I thoroughly enjoyed my time in Stamford. I really had a great time there. I had great guys, never had to worry about operating on the fire ground. Like, the guys were solid.
Yeah.
I just kind of decided after, when the time came, I got the job offer and I was like, I can kind of hit the reset button on my career. I was 37 at the time, in good enough shape, young enough that I'm like, you know what? People told me I was crazy. They're like, you're out of your mind. What are you doing? You got 16 years here. There's other contractual reasons. Like in Stamford, you can't collect health care until you're 55. You have to stay at work. You have to work until you're 55. So I would have had to do 34 years.
Gotcha.
So I said, you know what? I'm pulling the trigger. Had a discussion with my family about it.
Yeah.
Can we make this work? Because obviously going from a captain/acting deputy pay to a probationary firefighter pay is a huge hit. Decided we could make it work. It was worth, my happiness of doing exactly what I wanted to do. So we did it. And in 2014, I walked out of the Firehouse on July 22nd, and I started the academy in New Haven on July 23rd. And that was that.
All right.
So, yeah, like I said, I had a great time in Stamford. Nothing bad to say about the guys.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, but I wanted to go someplace a little bit busier, and I found that.
When you started writing your own classes, because I've taken your what is it, common mistakes of the engine
company class. Yep.
I think that was the first time we met. One of the Roxburys hosted it.
Yep.
But were you still with Stamford when you had the idea to write that, or
no? So when I was at Stamford, most of my teaching was academy classes, helping out, being like an adjunct for stuff like that. I hadn't really considered the idea of really going out there teaching a lot. It was when I got hired in New Haven, and when I got burned, that's a whole nother story. But in 2015, I got somewhat significantly burned in a fire. And that kind of got the wheels turning about seeing how New Haven operates, seeing it's a very SOG driven department, which I'm a huge fan of, where there's not a lot of radio chatter on the first 5-10 minutes of a fire because everyone already knows what their job is. I'm like, wow, this is like how things should go.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of talk on the radio. Everyone's doing what they're supposed to do. Operations just go smoothly. I want to kind of talk about that. So like even when incidents don't go well, they just kind of roll into plan B and it still seems to go pretty smoothly.
Yeah.
I got to talking to some other guys that were into teaching, but the engine company thing was kind of my baby. That I talked to some guys that owned other training companies. They definitely helped me out. I definitely had some mentors that helped me put the program together. I put like a rough draft together, sent it to a couple people, got critiques back from them. They're like, do this, do that, take that out, don't put that in there, whatever. And they were huge, huge helps. I started contact because I'm all this time I'm volunteering also in the town I live in. So I
was going to get to that.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people in the area and I'm like, hey man, like I'd love to come give this class, for your department. You don't even have to pay me. I just want to kind of get reps in teaching this so I get comfortable with it. So I did, and I started feeling comfortable with it. And then I put in to teach at FDIC, which honestly, getting an FDIC is very difficult. I would not have ever become an FDIC instructor if it wasn't for the help of one person, Frank Ritchie. People who know Frank knows he was part of the Ritchie versus DeStefano reverse discrimination case that made it to the Supreme Court. The New Haven 20, it's also known as. He's a big deal over at FDIC, and without his help, I never would have gotten selected, but I did. And I've been teaching there since 2017 now. And that was where the beginning came, though, like you said, that the engine company mistakes class. And I just kind of ran with it from there.
Now, do you want to go into that incident, or?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I don't mind talking about it. So basically, I went through the New Haven Fire Academy. Although even though I had 16 years in Stamford, you have to start all over in New Haven and go through. At the time, what I went through was 14 weeks. Okay. Got out of the academy. During the academy, I kind of let it be known that because everyone knows everyone. They knew I was a captain in Stamford, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, listen, I just want to go to a busy engine company. I just want to, be busy, do runs, go to fires, whatever. So I was lucky enough.
Admin stuff. I want to be a fireman.
Exactly. I just want to be a fireman again. So I was lucky enough to end up at engine 6 out of the Dixwell Firehouse, which at the time they were doing about, when I was there, I think it was around 4,000 runs a year. I believe they are over 6,000 runs a year now. It is a very busy engine. Urban.
Do Stamford and New Haven run together at all? Or?
No, they're about 45 minutes apart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. They're a good distance apart. Engine 6, it covers a very it's a poor neighborhood. It's ghetto. It's whatever you want to call it. That's what they cover. So I actually was a bit of a white cloud when I started. It took me a while to catch my first fire. Like some other guys, I came out of the academy. One guy went to a fire, I think his first night. Finally, I caught a really good fire in the night of February 28th into March 1st. It was my first good one. I had a couple like one roomers here and there, but this was a good one. So I'd only been out of the academy about 4 months, let's say. First due fire, literally a block from the firehouse. It was middle of winter, 3-foot high snowbanks, narrow one-way street, person trapped, middle of the night, fire blowing out about 3 windows, and it had also come down the stairs, was blowing out the front door. Because it was so close to the firehouse, we were on our own. There's a truck company in the firehouse with us. About 5 minutes before that box came in, they went on an automatic fire alarm with engine 8, the next district over. So they were coming from a distance. So it was literally just us.
So every checkbox for a NIOSH report.
Yes. It was like 5 degrees out. There was like 3 feet of snow. It was crazy. We go to this street. The street's called Dickerman Street. It's very narrow, one-way, parking on both sides. To the point where you have to like step off the rig and like step on the hood of a parked car to get out. It's like that kind of tight.
All right.
Stretch to the front door, get water. We have to, so New Haven, like I said, is very SOG driven. The first due engine must establish its own water supply, whether it's forward lay or reverse lay. So this was a forward lay fire because the hydrant was like 2 houses before the fire building.
Okay.
So we stop, hydrant guy gets out. We look and the hydrant is buried in snow. Like you could just see the top sticking out, which is very un-New Haven-like because anytime it snows, the companies are out there all day long shoveling. This one either got missed or it got re-plowed in after it was shoveled. Whatever the case was, it was buried. So we lay in, we stretch, start knocking it on tank water. A girl came running up to us and my dad is trapped on the 2nd floor. So we had confirmation, like we knew someone was trapped. We get like halfway up the stairs and you could just see it was hoarding conditions. Yeah. This huge vinyl record rack had fallen over and all these vinyl records were on fire on the stairs, which, people, when do you ever see vinyl records, let alone, on fire?
Yeah.
We're hitting it, making it up there. And pump operator's like, yeah, you guys are starting to run low on water. Hydrant guy's on the radio saying this hydrant's frozen. The 2nd and 3rd due engines are required to back down from opposite ends of the street in preparation to lay away to additional hydrants as needed. So it was all in the works, but there's obviously like a reflex time with this. Yeah. It's not happening, it's not happening like that. Plus we know we have someone trapped. Plus our truck company who does searches was coming from
the other side of town.
A lot of stuff going on.
Like I said,
Yes. 4th due engine is supposed to be RIT, but they were assigned to search right away. 2nd and 3rd due were assigned to fix the water problem. 4th due engine was assigned search. 2nd alarm was transmitted very quickly, but again, you have to wake the guys up, get on the rig, get on the road, big reflex time. So I guess long story short, we run out of water, things get hot again. We get water eventually. While we ran out of water, I'm like, man, my legs don't feel so good. Like, this kind of hurts. But, I knew we had guys searching above, so we got to do what we got to do. We're hitting it. We're starting to make progress now. Me and the lieutenant run low on air. By this time, a lot of the problems had been solved, so we hand over the nozzle to another company. Guys had made the grab. They had already removed the victim.
Okay.
Come outside. I'm like, man, my legs freaking hurt. But I'm 4 months out of the academy. I'm like, I don't want to be known as, So I'm like, I'll go check this out quietly. So I open my pants up, look. I'm like, I think I'm fine. change my bottle, go back in. Now it's like mop up time, pulling ceilings, putting out small fires, adrenaline levels coming down.
And your legs are killing you.
Now I'm like, holy shit, this really hurts. Finish a second bottle, and now I'm like, I got to say something, because I could tell something is not right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, Lou, something's up. I got to get checked. He's like, all right, do what you got to do. So I go over to the ambulance, take my pants off, and I'm missing a lot of skin from the knees down on both legs. Some burns on my waist, some burns on my wrist. Get transported. Again, long story short, second and third degree burns. I got skin graft surgery. I was out of work for a little while. The guys made a grab. The guy survived a few days, unfortunately succumbed to his injuries. Building is still standing today. So how that kind of drove me to create that class is I was like, I've been to fires where like ground ball fires, like this is like an easy fire, and guys screw it up. Next thing you know, it's 4 hours later and you're operating defensive and you're watching a building burn down that never should have happened because it was like a one-room fire. This one, like you said, has every checkbox for like a NIOSH line of duty death report, or at the very least, just for things to go bad and us burning this building down. And it didn't happen. Like the guys made a grab. The building is still standing. It's because a lot of reasons, but very strong leadership.
You knew your jobs, and you just, like you said, your department's very SOG driven to where, okay, we have a plan B, we have a plan C, we have a plan D. And like, again, going back to what you just said, your second and third due are geared to back down to lay out in case there's a second or third issue.
Right.
Which that's honestly
a lot of departments. If you lose your water supply, it's panic and chaos.
Exactly.
At the time also, so the leadership we had back in, and it's only 11 years ago, but we had chief officers who were firefighters in like the 80s, the early 90s, when New Haven was burning down like no one's business. Like it wasn't unusual, 2-3 fires a night. Those days are over. Not to say anything bad about our current chief officers. We have fantastic chief officers, but a lot of them, we still have a couple old school guys, but a lot of them just didn't grow up in that era. Yeah. So their decision making, not that it's flawed, but it's just not, you just didn't have that level of comfortability. Like the guys from back in the day, you tell me to do something, I'm doing it. I'm not even thinking twice about it because I know you've been there and done this 100 times or more. So that kind of drove me to create this program where I'm like, okay, I want to talk about some of the bad incidents I've been to and why they didn't go well, so we can address those issues. And then I want to talk about what we do well, so we keep doing those things, so we continue to try and have successful outcomes. And during the class, one of the things I talk about are my personal screw ups. Like early in the class, I will say, okay, show of hands, who here is screwed up on the fire ground? And every person puts their hand up. I say, absolutely. I say, I screw up literally every fire I go to, but I am my own biggest critic when I do. Versus a lot of guys, they make the same screw ups, but they bury their head in the sand. They pretend they didn't do it. They don't own up to it. Or as a department, not even individuals, as a department, we don't address our shortcomings. And then we go to a fire a month later and we have the same poor outcome. Why? Because we didn't own the fact that we screwed up. We're human. We make mistakes. You're expected to screw up. It's the problem is when you repeat the same mistake over and over and over at every fire you go to, and you don't address those problems. And unfortunately, there's a lot of places that still operate like that. I wanted my program to kind of drive people away from that, where we own our mistakes.
No, I agree. I love it. Like I said, it was probably in the incipient stage that in that era where you were still building out that class.
Oh, it's probably changed about 50 times since you've seen it. That class has changed a million times.
All right. So obviously you recovered from your burns. So now, how were the guys? And that kind of, when you said, you were 4 months out of the academy, you didn't want to be that guy or be seen as that guy. How were the guys treating you? Because obviously, like you said, they knew you weren't the average probie. You were coming from a respected position in a different respected department to where, obviously you're mopping, obviously you're in the kitchen sink, but on the fire ground, were they treating you like a probie or?
Oh yeah, like probably more so because they're like, oh, this guy, who does he think he is? Like, then they get to know me and realize I'm not like that at all. I like being treated like the new guy. I want zero preferential treatment.
Yeah.
With the injuries, obviously I got my balls broken relentlessly about it, which I would absolutely expect about it.
Oh,
but no,
absolutely.
the guys are fantastic.
But if you think about it, why did you get those injuries? Because you knew you had guys above pulling a search and you needed to stay in position with that line to protect them.
Yes.
So really, bust my balls because I got hurt, but I saved your life. Like,
yeah. I mean, the guys would have been fine either way, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Whereas a regular probie might have been like, hey, Cap, I got to go.
Yeah, I mean, it could certainly happen. I don't hold myself to any esteem that, like, oh, I did something heroic by any stretch of the imagination. I did what I hope the majority of guys would do.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. As we should all do.
As Frank Ritchie says, if you want to be safe, go work for Public Works. Which I like to change his saying. That Public Works can be a dangerous job. I say, if you want to be safe, go be a librarian.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get back. You're back to the firehouse after the injury. You're moving forward. You're teaching. How has your career with New Haven progressed?
So, I unfortunately didn't spend a tremendous amount of time at Dixwell at Engine 6. There was a shortage of special operations guys. A lot got promoted, retired, whatever. And I had heard my senior man at Dixwell kept going, you're going to get pulled out of here. You're going to end up going to a squad. And I was like, no. I only got like 2 years on. Like, I want to stay here. And then one day, Assistant Chief of Ops pulls him to the apron in his car. He goes, he's here to see you. I'm like, as soon as he pulled in, an EMS run came in. So we go out, we come back, walk in. He's like, Firefighter Rivera. I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, can I talk to you for a minute? I'm like, okay. He's like, listen, the chief needs guys who have certifications and he knows have, some sort of background special ops. So next transfer list, you're going to be getting sent over to squad 2. So he goes, listen, if you really don't like, he goes, I know you came here to be busy and work on a busy engine and all that good stuff. He goes, if you really don't like it, come see me, give it a year and I'll try and get you back. But long story short, I never went back. And, probably 9 years later, I'm still involved in special ops. So I'm still doing that. So, and I have no complaints about it. I mean, being in special ops, not every day is a busy day. You're not really doing EMS runs. You're not doing automatic fire alarms, which do make the day go by quick. I very much enjoy getting overtime on a busy engine because we have engines that, during the day might do 10, 12, 15 runs. That same number of runs overnight can be a little bit tough because I'm not a spring chicken anymore. But I still don't mind by any stretch of doing it. Like I still enjoy, getting your balls kicked in once in a while.
Yeah.
Just to remind you what it's all about. And I do enjoy working on a busy company once in a while, but I'm still doing special ops stuff, which has been great. It's just, we do a lot of it. We train on a very regular basis. Ropes, I would say, is really big in New Haven because we have 2 target hazards. There are 2 city parks, East Rock and West Rock, that have sheer rock cliffs that go down between 200 and 300 feet, straight drop. Wow. And usually a couple times a year, somebody will go up there and decide to end things and jump. And then we'll get called to, do the rescue. Or you'll get rock climbers trying to climb up from the bottom, and they'll get halfway and realize they're too tired to continue, and they'll call us to get them down. So I have been lucky enough to operate at several of these incidents. Probably the most notable one was September of, I think, 22, I think. If I remember, it might have been 21, 22. We had a guy jump, go about 300 feet straight down, survived the fall. We did a complete top-to-bottom rope operation, like Arizona Vortex, twin tension system, send guys down, package them in a Stokes basket, haul them back up. Like everything you trained for, we actually got to put into play at an actual incident where the guy survived. It doesn't happen that often. And, you know, luckily enough, I happened to be working that day. It was my regular shift. So the other big thing is, like I said, it was my regular shift. So it was the guys who we trained together all the time. If it had been middle of summer, guys are on vacation, people detailed in or on overtime you don't normally work with, it may not have gone as smooth. But not that any operation goes perfect, but it was as close to how we train as I could not have been happier with that incident and how it went. So yeah, ropes is a big thing for us because, like I said, we have those target hazards that seem to several times a year we're going there doing something along those lines.
I like it. So now, what's the makeup of the New Haven Fire Department? Engines, trucks. You said they work 10s and 14s.
Right. So it is a 10 engine, 4 truck, 1 rescue, 3 paramedic fly cars. A deputy chief is the shift commander, 2 battalion chiefs below him. And then there's it's called the SOC. It's a special, it's basically chief's aides. They go to all major incidents and they run accountability and they run the tablet for the chief so the chief can concentrate on, you know, operations. We're at full staffing. We're close to 400 guys. I'd say about 380. We haven't been at full staffing for quite a while. We're down about 80 right now. We have a class of 35, 34, somewhere in that ballpark in the academy right now. They're graduating, I think, a little over a month. Supposedly, we're going to have another class immediately follow that of around 40 again, which should bring us back close to full staffing. It's been a minute since we've been at full staffing, which there's pluses and minuses. Like everyone loves overtime. I love overtime. The downside is the order ins. You wake up in the morning and, oh, by the way, you're not going home today. You're stuck here. So we're hitting peak overtime season right now with July and August. It's going to be an interesting couple months. Hopefully this class alleviates some of those problems, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at. That's the makeup of the department.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So how do you guys, like, a little bit about how you guys operate, and then we'll talk about your tactical resource fire training.
You got it. So it's a busy place. Like, we do 33,000 runs a year as a city, and a lot of that is EMS. Box alarms, like reported fires, you'll get 3 engines, 2 trucks, the rescue, the SOC, and a battalion chief right off the rip. The 4th due engine starts making their way, like non-emergency mode, towards that area, especially if it sounds good. Like if you read the notes and it sounds like work, they'll start heading there. Once someone says working fire, that 4th engine gets added as RIT. Essentially, like I said, 1st due engine establishes a water supply, stretches a line. We are a very aggressive interior department. I can count on I could count on one hand and probably have multiple fingers left over how many times we operate defensively right off the bat. We're interior until proven otherwise, and it's kind of essential. It's a very densely packed urban department. It's to compare it to, you know, New Jersey, a much smaller version of like a Newark or a Jersey City, somewhat equivalent to like a Patterson or a Trenton, something along those lines. Not as many fires as Patterson and Trenton, but the demographics and the environment is very similar to that. 2nd and 3rd due engines back down from opposite ends. Like I said, 4th due engine is RIT. 1st due truck gets the front of the building. We're 4 people across the board on all engines and trucks. The rescue has 5. The rescue on arrival splits. 2 guys do a primary search on the fire floor, and the other 3 do a search on the floor above. The 1st due truck splits as well. The officer and the inside position search the fire floor in conjunction with the 2 guys from the rescue, and the other 2, the driver and the tillerman, or the driver and the roof position, they go to the roof and cut. We cut roofs I know that's a lot of the fire service seems to be moving away, or vertical ventilation is becoming very controversial. We essentially cut every roof. 95% of our fires, and that's not an exact number, it's just my guesstimate, are in balloon frame buildings. The city is 2.5-story balloon frame, large type 5 buildings, like almost the entire city, that are all spaced 5 to 10 feet apart. So you get a first floor fire and it's in the walls, it's hitting that attic, and probably all floors are occupied.
Every investigation you've just described, every investigation I've ever done in New Haven.
Yeah, that's what we have. And so cutting the roof, even if it's a first floor fire, if it's a kitchen fire and it got in the walls, you're gonna have fire on that top floor. So we cut roofs, religiously. One other cool thing is our truck companies, 2 of the 4 are tillers, so that's fun. And we have a Seagrave aerial scope on order, which I believe will be here sometime next year. And I heard a little rumor that may or may not be true, that our rear mount might be getting replaced by a 3rd tiller, but I don't know if that's true. That was just something Firehouse rumor that's floating around. Anyway, so yeah, that's second due truck. If they get there before the 4th due engine, they'll establish really it just means they'll start laddering the building and softening the building. And then they kind of fill in as needed on the fire ground. If they need to go to the roof to help the roof guys, they'll do that. If they need to search, if they need to open up ceilings, whatever needs to get done, they'll get done. Yeah, that's our first alarm assignment and basically how they operate.
I like it.
It works. It works for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we're throwing 30 plus guys at a first alarm fire, which I don't know if the guys realize how spoiled we are.
I was going to say that's very, very nice.
I mean, on the complete other part of my life, like where I ride down to Christiana, Delaware, like we're going to a lot of fires down there, and it's with 1 engine and 1 truck, at least for the first few minutes until the rest of the box assignment gets there. So night and day in how much you can get done. Because also in New Haven, it's 10 firehouses in 20 square miles. So we're literally on top of each other.
Yeah.
As a first due engine or truck driver, if God forbid you make a wrong turn, like you're no longer first due, like you're out and you're going to get yelled at. So we're literally on top of each other.
And see that goes back to being very SOG driven or SOP driven, and knowing, hey, these are the priorities that are expected of. Because think about it, you've been a chief officer. When you're running command, it's kind of nice to have a little gap between arrivals of apparatus, because you can plan out in your head, hey, I want them here, I want them here, I want them to do that. When they're all showing up on top of each other, they need to know what's expected of them. They need to know where they fall in that dance.
Yeah, there's not a lot of time for decision making. Like when 4 engines, 2 trucks, and a rescue are showing up within a minute and a half or 2 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
And these are on narrow streets, cars everywhere.
You guys need to know.
The general public does not care about the fire truck, so they're trying to drive around us.
It's on my house on fire. I don't care.
No. So if you nosed in when you should have backed in, guess what? You're not fixing it. Like, you're screwed. Yeah. You're stuck.
You are where you are.
You got to do it right the first time, or we got problems.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, tactical resource fire training.
So yeah, training company that I formed. I've been doing training for a number of years. I was working with other people for quite a while. I decided to form my own training company last year, and we kind of just hit the ground running. I have roughly 20 instructors that teach for me, guys from Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. I got guys from, a good cross section of the Northeast, Delaware, Pennsylvania. So essentially we cover a wide variety of topics, not saying, oh, well, I can teach any topic. And that's not like that. I'm saying that you can cover a lot of topics because I have a lot of guys that have experience. Like, I might not be a truck company vertical ventilation guy because I've been in special operations most of my time, but I have a guy who rides a truck company in Philadelphia, and that's his job, to go cut roofs. Or I got a truck guy in New Haven who cuts roofs, and those would be the guys I send to that class. We do a lot of stuff across the board, from engine stuff to truck stuff to special operations. We do a lot of rope classes. I was down in Jersey, did a 2-day high angle class for Dover and Picatinny back in January. And I'll most likely be going back down there at some point later in this year to do that, to do more with them. A lot of extrication classes. We got a connection with a junkyard in Roxbury Auto Salvage. They've always been really good to us, where we'll run a 40-person open enrollment extrication class. Yeah, we do anything from a drill night. So like Boonton Township, I went to Boonton Township actually last week to do a pump ops class. Okay. I would definitely not consider myself an expert in pump ops, especially rural pump operations, but I brought a guy with me who got his start in the fire service volunteering in Vermont. So he's down in Connecticut now, but he's a big pump guy and a big rural pump guy. So the two of us went down and we did a 3-hour class for them. So we'll essentially travel anywhere. We'll do stuff from, a short drill night like that up to a multi-day class. I'll be up in New Hampshire next month doing a 2-day with a bunch of guys, 2-day advanced extrication class. Yeah, you name it, we'll go do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Our big, I don't want to use the term selling point, but we teach like with the students, not at the students. We're not the guys who will walk into your firehouse and be like, yeah, we're all big city guys. You guys don't know nothing. We're salty guys that know everything. It's not like that whatsoever. We're here to learn from you. You're here to learn from us. Yeah. I want to hear what you guys do. So, I pick up some tips and we're here to present the information that we have for you. I'm not a better fireman than the guy to my left or the guy to my right. We're all on the same page here. We're here to learn together, essentially. There's no attitudes. There's no egos. There's none of that stuff. We're in this together to make us all better. And I won't have instructors that are like that. Like I'm not going to bring a guy on who thinks he's the biggest badass fireman, going. I want humble guys that are into the job, passionate about teaching, and just love the fire service. That's what we're about.
I love it. All right. So, are you, obviously, I'm hoping you submitted for FDIC again this year.
I did. So the engine company class that I started with in 2017, I didn't do that one this past year. I actually decided to shift gears and do a search and down firefighter based class, which I gave this past year. I've given it a few. I just did it up in Massachusetts a couple weeks ago. So I resubmitted for that one again. And then I also submitted for a hands-on class. Hands-on classes are like very, very difficult to get selected for.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I'll cross my fingers, but I don't have high hopes for it. It is what it is. It's tough to get an FDIC hot. If I get selected to go back and do the lecture, I'll be more than happy to do that. Definitely. So yeah, hoping for another year. At the very least, I'll probably be back out there again working with FAST because we have the booth.
Yeah.
Which I did also with the guys this year. So one way or the other, I'll find my way to FDIC.
Awesome. I love it. You want to touch on some of these pictures or?
Sure. So that was after a basement fire. These are some guys that I just love working with. This was no huge fire to write home about. It was a basement fire that was actually called in by the first due engine. They had a medical call right down the street. We were hanging out in the firehouse and we were, Engine 10 in New Haven, give me a box at whatever the address was. I got smoke coming from the basement. Yeah, more than the fire, it's just the guys.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to really work with through my whole career, from like literally the beginning of Stamford up to today. Awesome guys. Nothing bad to say about them. The friendships you build in the fire service is just, it's like nothing else. It's part of that addiction to the fire service is that you're building an entire like second family outside of, your first family. The guys that you work with are, if you're lucky enough to work with ones that you get along with, there's nothing else.
Absolute home run.
Yep. Similar group of guys. This was an interesting fire. We were out getting lunch, and it just so happened the place we were out getting lunch was like right up the street from this place. It was in a manufacturing facility. It was a huge oil burner, like 30 feet tall by 50, 60 feet wide. And
Okay.
it was like dense. It wasn't like number 2 fuel oil. It was like burning a different type of like crude oil. And during our operations, there was an explosion inside the building that, from command said, the roof actually lifted up off the building and came back down when the thing exploded. We all thought this was it. Like, it was a huge fireball kind of shot out at us. We all kind of hit the ground, and it was one of those pucker factors that was interesting. Afterwards, you look back on it, you're like, wow, that was an interesting day.
That was a first.
Yeah, it was a good fire, but not a lot of fun. It was oil all over the ground that was burning, turned into foam operations. It was a long day. So that will probably
that looks like a long day.
That was an ass kicker fire. So late evening fire, probably about 11 p.m. Fire comes in like 3 districts over from where the rescue is housed. Like, it's a ride for us to get there. But it just so happened like every company between us and the fire building was on another run. So we ended up first due to this. Not just first due, but first due where we get out of the rig and we look around, we're like, where is everybody? Like, there's nobody coming. Everyone was coming from a distance. Me and the boss, 4th entry front door. I actually have some pretty good GoPro footage from this fire. Make it to the 2nd floor, smoke bank down maybe 6 inches off the floor, start crawling. Fire starts rolling over my head. I said, oh, cool. Hit it with the can, does nothing. We start hearing talking like down by the entrance. So we know people are arriving. And we hear obviously in the radio traffic as well.
Yeah.
Captain turns to me and goes, hey, like, we got no water on this fire other than, 2.5 gallon water can. He's like, there's a bedroom over here. Let's start making our way over here. So it was a decision-making time because we didn't have a report of anyone trapped, but we treat every fire as if someone is trapped.
Yeah.
I could have gone past the fire because I knew the stairs were towards the front of the building to go search the top floor. But with no line in service yet or even stretched yet, I was like, ooh, like, good way to get yourself trapped. So the boss is like, you know what? Now let's hang tight for a minute. We back up. Fire starts rolling out in the hallway. Lines coming up. We're like, you know what? We got to bail in this bedroom and shut the door. So we go in the bedroom, shut the door, we're waiting. He's like, if this bedroom door doesn't hold, he goes, I got a window over here. And guess what? We're going out. Because it was the fire had also wrapped around the other side of the building. And essentially we were kind of trapped in a corner.
Gotcha.
Luckily, door held, engine got there, got water on the fire, and things got better from there. But that was that was a ball breaker.
Another pucker factor.
Thoroughly enjoyed that fire though. That was a good time.
Now this one I like because I cut the rest of the crew out, but you just look happy in that picture.
You don't see me smile that often. It's only after fires that I'm smiling. That was back in the Squad 2 days. That one was, I believe it was a fire right up the street. So back in the day, New Haven used to have 2 squads for special operations. Squad 1 was the east side, Squad 2 was the west side. And Squad 2 was in quarters with Engine 9. Engine 9's a real busy engine. Still is. They're by themselves now, though. This fire was a condo fire right up the street. It was just it was an enjoyable time. I tell you, the fire, we were just, a lot of the guys, we still all work together were the Squad 2 crew back then. We're like, man, I know it's only going back like 6, 8, 10 years ago, but it seemed like we just went to so many more fires back in the Squad days than nowadays. I don't know what changed.
Now, the squads were rescue engine companies.
Yeah.
And they, if I remember my history correct, they folded and became just engine companies, and they revamped the rescue company, right?
Essentially, Squad 2 just went away.
Okay.
Squad 1 became rescue. Well, I shouldn't say Squad 2. Squad 2 closed down. Engine 9 runs by itself now with a battalion chief in that firehouse. That's it.
Okay.
Squad 1 became Rescue 1. It used to be Engine 8 and Squad 1. Squad 1 became Rescue 1. Engine 8 essentially became Squad 2. Squad 2's apparatus is now Engine 8's apparatus and Engine 8 is the squad back up to the rescue. It's just not called a squad. Carries extrication equipment, struts, confined space stuff, rope stuff, you name it, it's got it. Just like Squad 2 did.
So they're a SOC engine company.
Yeah, if you want it, for lack of a better term, yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, this was I remember the first due engine was not happy at this fire because they were out of service at the training school.
That's horrible.
Yeah. This was a fire in Fairhaven, which is engine 10 and truck 3. It's arguably, it's a very ghetto neighborhood. A lot of fires, a lot of good first due work there. It's a fun place to be. I actually worked overtime there last night. Unfortunately, no fire duty. Yeah, it's just another example. See how everyone's smiling? It's just not, fires just bring everyone together.
Yep.
When you hit those slow times, like everyone gets at each other, you're sitting around the kitchen table breaking balls, but now someone takes it personally, and now you're like, you know what? I've had enough of you. And you go to a fire 10 minutes later, and it just makes everything better. Everyone's happy. Everyone gets along. You forget about the issues you have with people, whatever the case may be. Unfortunately, they don't happen every day anymore, so it's tough. Yeah. I just love group shots because it shows how happy everyone can be. This picture's in. So this is out of Christiana. I actually use this in my search presentation. And what I talk about is the fact that this is 4 guys who ride together probably once a month. 2 of the 4 are Christiana paid guys, and 2 are volunteers. But from the group shot, you could really not guess who is who. Yeah. And the other part of the slide that I talk about is that even though it's 4 guys from 4 different areas, you got a Connecticut guy, a Jersey guy, another guy who you may know, Sean in that picture, Sean Foote.
I know the name. Yeah.
He's from the Roxbury area, but he's in Christiana now. And the other guy in that picture, he's from like Dover, Delaware, like the bottom of Delaware. Like 4 guys from 4 very different areas. Yet when we go to a fire together, it's another place where these fires just seem to go seamlessly.
Yep.
For the same reason as New Haven. It's a different scale in that Christiana is part of the Newcastle County. It's a county system where a box assignment is pulling from multiple departments throughout the county, but you're operating with county SOGs.
Yep.
First due engine does this, second due engine does that, so on and so forth. And because everyone has buy-in, I know it was a long road to get there.
Oh, of course.
And I'm not a chief. I never had to sit through the meetings. I'm sure there was plenty of arguments and frustration along the way. But if you listen to Newcastle County Fire Radio, you would never realize that it is a mixture of career guys, volunteer guys, probably 6 different departments operating at the fire, because it literally sounds like a full career department that just works together, the same guys all the time. It's unbelievable what goes on down there.
Yeah. I've listened. I know people down there. It's just, it works. I don't understand why it's so hard.
I think the hardest thing for New Jersey is that there really is, there is county government. Connecticut will never happen because there is no form of county government in Connecticut. So it's just tough. Jersey, I don't know. What's that?
There's not?
No, there's no county sheriff. There's really no county government.
Wow.
It's towns and cities and the state.
Okay.
I know this from still my connections in New Jersey that I know they're doing a lot more automatic aid than they were when I was there in the 90s. I know Picatinny runs all over the place now. Like, we never left base other than a hazmat.
Well, when I started up there, it was starting to pick up where the towns around us were calling. But by the time I left, Jefferson Company 2, Lake Pacon, if they got anything smoker above, our engine tanker were going. Then Dover, if it was anything residential, the engine was going. If it's anything commercial, the engine and truck were going. Yeah, we were seeing a lot. Like by the time I left, we were seeing a lot of work. The hazmat truck, the hazmat team, we were going all over the place. We were working with the county hazmat team on a regular basis.
I was there at the wrong time.
It was well. I left there in September 20, and they were starting to pick up, and now they're just steamrolling along. It's going. Yeah,
that's awesome. I mean, we're doing more automatic aid up here, but it's piecemeal. You have to ask for what you want. There's no alarm cards. You can't say, "Give me a second alarm," and they already know who to send. There's no box assignments. It's tough. It's tough, and what goes on in Newcastle County should be a model for everywhere of how to make things work like that.
Well, you even last week I had Captain Rob LeBrun from Plainsboro, but he worked in Loudoun County and Prince William County, and they're doing the same things down there. I mean, obviously it's a county-based system, but even integrating the volunteers into that system, we as a county operate this way. You know, I think New Jersey, it's egos and money.
I think it's like that everywhere.
Absolutely. Here's the last picture I got for you. You look like somebody just said something very stupid.
I always say something stupid.
And you're like,
I don't remember which fire this was from. That might have been the one where the roof lifted up off also. We get buffs that come out and they take a million pictures, which is awesome. Like, it's nice being able to get pictures of yourself working in fires and pictures, group shots with the guys and all that good stuff. Yeah, I think I was just talking to another guy about operations from that fire and probably laughing about how we almost died.
It happens. All right. So do you have anything else you want to bring up before we get into the Jersey questions?
No, we could hit the Jersey. Let's hit the Jersey.
All right. Is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
Oh, God. Come on, dude. I'm North Jersey. It's Taylor ham all day. That's a conversation. Like, literally every time I go to Christiana, we get in some discussion about that. And down there, it's mostly
Kentuckian that says, "What's pork roll? How about scrapple?"
Honestly, I've had scrapple. I'm not against scrapple. I wouldn't eat it every day. No. So, funny scrapple story. I'm telling the guys at work about, so Connecticut doesn't even have Taylor ham. A few select delis do, and a few select supermarkets do. So I know where to get it up here. I went and bought a bunch. I told the guys, I said, listen, I'm cooking breakfast Sunday morning. You guys are going to try Taylor ham. Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. And everyone's like, holy shit, this is like the best breakfast sandwich I've ever had. It's phenomenal. I'm like, better than bacon, egg, and cheese, right? They're like, yup. I'm like, all right. So next time I go to Christiana, I'm going to bring you guys home scrapple. They're like, what the hell is scrapple? So basically, where they make hot dogs, and like the joke is like the hot dogs are made from like lips and assholes and stuff on the floor. I said, scrapple's like the step even below that. So I get some scrapple down in Christiana and I bring it home and I fry it up. And I work with 9 guys, and I think about 6 of them were like, I'm not even trying that thing. Absolutely not. And then a couple did. So the feedback was, it wasn't the worst, but I really don't want to have it again.
I wouldn't choose this if I wasn't dying of hunger.
Exactly. I mean, it's got to be cooked right. If you cook it too thick, it's like a sponge. If you cut it too thin, it's too hard. There's a science to it. Like the Christiana guys make it all the time. I'll partake a little bit.
Yeah. If I'm dying of hunger, I'll take a bite.
If you put ketchup on it, it makes it better.
Call me mustard, bro. Call me mustard. All right. This is going to be controversial, I'm sure.
All right.
Best pizza.
Oh, I mean, in Jersey or in general?
In general, give me it's Friday night and you have a teleportation chamber. You want the best slice. Where are you going?
You understand that I work in the pizza capital of the world.
I know.
For Dave Portnoy.
I'm well aware, but maybe you have someplace that personally in Jersey, or you know what? You get around. Maybe maybe you found a better slice in Illinois.
No, definitely not. Definitely not Delaware.
I didn't think so, but I was just throwing that out there.
Don't. If you go to Delaware, don't get pizza.
No.
All right, I'm going to name two. So if I'm in New Haven, I'm getting either Sally's or Modern.
Okay.
If I'm going somewhere else, Pasquale's in Boonton.
Okay.
Pasquale's in Boonton. They got robbed by Dave Portnoy's rating. So he went there. There was some sort of miscommunication. They gave him like a cold slice, so they got a bad rating. He really needs to go there and try it again. Huge fan of Pasquale's. I'll throw one other place in there as well. More along 95 down in the southern part of Connecticut by Stanford. Stanford's actually the original Colony Pizza.
Okay.
Wafer thin. It's a bar pie. Only comes in one size. It's for one person. Like I said, it's like wafer thin. They do a hot oil you can get on it, which is like olive oil, but very spicy.
Okay.
Awesome pizza. Big fan. Different. People either love it or hate it. It does not travel well. Don't take it to go. There's probably 4 Colony places up and down 95, but you got to go to Stanford. It's the original old brick building. Sit at the bar, cold beer, like definitely the best. So yeah, those are my go-tos. Those are my go-tos.
All right. Next question: do you go to the beach or you go down the shore?
If I'm in Jersey, you go down the shore. But in Connecticut, if I said I'm going down the shore, people would look at me funny. No one goes to the beaches in Connecticut because they suck. Generally, you either go down the shore or you go out to like Cape Cod or something like that. So down the shore is what I grew up with. Up here, though, yeah, you're going to the beach.
Now, where's your venue of choice, if you will?
I mean, I try and make it to Wildwood for the convention every year, which usually results in me doing stupid things and drinking too much, which has dire consequences for like days later because I'm way too old to be acting like that. I blame the Christiana guys for that. I like Cape Cod. Cape Cod is nice. Block Island. I don't know if guys from Jersey even know about Block Island. It's like this little island that you got to take a ferry from New London, Connecticut, or there's another one at Rhode Island somewhere. That's a lot of fun. They just had a house blow up there the other day. It made Facebook. Like it actually blew off the foundation.
I saw that.
So yeah, Cape Cod, Block Island, or down the shore, Wildwood. All
right. Next question is: does Central Jersey really exist?
Yes. If you're in the 908 area code, you're in Central Jersey. I still remember this stuff.
Well, see, I was going to say, where would you draw? And I mean, maybe because you've been out of states for a while, where would you draw your lines of
anything around 78, Interstate 78, like Bridgewater, anything, I don't know, 30 minutes north to 30 minutes south, I would call Central Jersey.
All right, so you're calling 78 to Central Jersey. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Why? What are you calling that?
I asked the question. I have no opinion.
Yeah.
78 is still North Jersey.
Nah. North Jersey for me is, Morris County and up. Once you get to like Somerset, I don't really know what goes on down there.
All right. Who were some of your biggest mentors?
Oof. So going back to like the Boonton Township days, I would say a lot of them I still keep in touch with. One who has passed, unfortunately, Mark Kolich. He was a career fireman for Lions VA.
Yes.
Down in Central Jersey. And he was a volunteer in Boonton Township. He was absolutely one of my biggest mentors coming up through the fire service. Humble, knowledgeable, just always willing to talk to you about fire service stuff, pass on that knowledge. He's the guy I wanted to be, when I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Other guys that I still keep in touch with, mostly, Boonton Township guys, between Scott Para, Billy Klingener, Bill Neely, guys that were, I would say, 5 to 10 years older than me. growing up or coming up through the fire service that, I'd look up to them as, they were around. Oh, they've been around forever, even though, they weren't that much older than me. Those guys for sure. Then, as a career fireman, there's so many different people, different officers I had, different senior man, private guys coming up. I've always been lucky enough to have those people around me to guide me and, show me the right way. So the list could go on, but I would say some of the biggest impact ones were definitely the ones I had coming up early in my time in the fire service, as a junior in high school, through my, early 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, all those guys. Rich Bizzari and Picatinny, he was a captain when I was there. He was fantastic. So many guys. I mean, I could name probably 100 different people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Proudest achievement or accomplishment on the job?
Whew. Fires that go well. The few successful grabs that I've been involved in one way or the other, whether it was being a boss on the rig and the guys made the grab or, whatever the case may be, those are always fantastic. I've kind of gotten to a point now where a lot of my teaching is kind of what makes me proud, being able to pass on the knowledge that I've gained over the years, and then seeing those people become successful. Okay. Once in a while, I'll get an email. Oh, I took your class a year ago, and then we went to an incident that was just like what we trained on, and it went really well. Thank you for the training. Stuff like that. That stuff speaks volumes, because I'm 48. Not that I'm anywhere near being done working, but I'm on the back half. I'm definitely on the back half of my career. So just being able to pass on the little bit of knowledge, experience, whatever that I've gained through the years, and, maybe hopefully being someone's mentor at some point, that's really what makes me proud now. Like, I love going to fires. I love making a difference as we can. But at this point, it's really just passing that stuff on.
Absolutely. All right. Last question I have for you. What advice do you have for the fire service?
Whew, that's another tough one. The fire service is in a interesting place right now. Like, I live in 3 different worlds. I work for a career department. I volunteer in Christiana, which is combination, and I volunteer at home, which is home response. For lack of a better term, we're a run-of-the-mill volunteer department. We do 500 calls a year, handful of fires, nothing crazy. We just do what we do. From the volunteer side, we're lacking people. I just had a conversation recently about how to make things better in terms of incentives, and I don't have the answer. I don't know if anyone does have the answer. All we can try, the requirements on people is so much. Fire 1 is so long. If you do EMS, EMT is so long, and everyone has a million other things going on in their lives. Trying to make the training you're bringing into your department relevant, challenging, and fun. Those are the big 3. If you can make your training those, then at least you will hold people's interests. We can't make fires occur more often than they do. They happen when they happen, and they don't when they don't. The best we can do is give our people quality training to at least, hold their interest. The new generation coming up is different than my generation and your generation. My kid, my oldest, is 16. He is a junior in my volunteer department.
I was actually just going to ask. I was going to say, your 2 sons. Is there any?
Yeah, so my oldest is 16. He's been in for about a year and a half now. My youngest just turned 14 not too long ago. He plays soccer 7 days a week, so trying to find the time is hard, but he says he wants to join.
Yeah.
But they're a different generation, put your phone down, stop playing video games. I mean, it's just different, and they're the way they learn is different. When we teach,
I tell people that all the time, and not to cut you off, but I tell people that all the time, because it's, this generation doesn't, all they want to do is question. Well, think about it. Your kids are in that age.
Yep.
What did you teach them? You always taught them, don't just do, understand.
Right.
Well, that's why they're sitting there saying, "Oh,
you
why?"
can't fault them for wanting to know why.
Exactly, but that old generation doesn't the old generation of us that brought us in doesn't understand that. So in a volunteer house where you have those two generations combined.
Yes. So as an instructor and as someone who hopes to like mentor newer people, we should be explaining to them why.
Absolutely.
And as an instructor, you should know the why. Just because I can set up a rope system that I'm regurgitating the information that someone once showed me, and I could show you how to build a 3-to-1. Here's how you do it. Well, when someone asks, why is this a 3-to-1? What does that mean? As an instructor, you should have that answer, and you should yourself be really well versed in the why so that you can tell them that information. I don't know if some people get mad when they get asked why because maybe they don't know the why. They just know how to show the information or show the process, and they don't have that answer. So their default is to get mad about it. But as an instructor, we should know the why. Or if we don't know the why, say, let me find out that answer for you. Because, yeah, no one knows 100% of the information 100% of the time. We all have knowledge gaps.
Yeah.
If someone asks me a question, I don't know the answer, my default should not be to be like, why are you asking me that question? Don't worry about it. No, it's, you know what? I don't know. Let me find that out for you. And
hey, you know what? Let's look it up together.
Look it up, talk to someone, make a phone call someone who you know is a subject matter expert in it, whatever the case may be. So being able to shift the way we teach for this new generation to, again, keep them engaged
100%.
and have them interested. Because if this generation loses interest in the fire service, we got problems. We got problems. I get in my volunteer department, our upper management people, I'm a lieutenant now, but let even say from my rank up, we're all getting older. We're all, most of us are 40 plus.
Yeah.
We're not going to be here forever. So we have to be able to pass that torch on to not just because it has to happen, but to guys that can handle it and can teach and can run an incident. And unfortunately, the practical application of doing it is not happening that often anymore. It's not the 70s and 80s anymore. Serious incidents are fewer and far between. And if we don't practice it and we don't have that knowledge, we're going to go down a bad road. So I don't know if that really answered your question, but I guess it kind of answered your question.
No, absolutely. That's what your advice for the future, for the fire services. And it's really train and learn how to train each other and communicate.
Yep.
And I mean, it really, it drives it home to a nutshell. And we talk about it every week on the show, no matter, whether it's an older guy or a younger guy that I have on the show. It's passing that knowledge on. And you know what? And now, like you were saying, if that future generation that newer generation doesn't see the fire service as something, an ambition, we're kind of screwed. Because look right now, when you and I were trying to get on the job, we're 8 years apart. That time frame, there were 5 tests for 15 people and thousands of guys taking that test. And now it's 1,000 tests and 200 guys taking it.
I'm constantly seeing application periods getting extended due to lack of applicants. It's crazy. I get it in the volunteer world because you're not really getting compensated and no one has free time. This is a job for the rest of your life that is fairly lucrative, where you can live comfortably with a family and everything else.
And see, even that, like, I see a lot of, freshman team department, as they're being referred to, or, foot in the door departments, because their salary isn't really there. It's a volunteer department that is recently going down that career route. They're not starting off that high. So guys are taking this step, getting in the door, and then they're seeing a place that's maybe 55,000, and they're like, "Oh, hey, I'll put in for this job." Yep. Well, again, going back to how we taught that new generation, never settle for what you're less than you think. Well, this generation got participation trophies, so they think they're pretty great at everything.
Yeah, this is the we're reaping what we sowed, or
Exactly.
this is the fruit of what we what happened.
I forget who said it, but the saying goes, hard times create hard men create good times create soft men.
Yep. And the circle,
and it just creates
itself. Yep.
So where we fall in to that cycle, who knows? Are these good times or hard times?
I don't know. I think we had good times, and we're going down a tough road right now in general. I would say. I mean, we can't even get on the topic of what's going on in the world as a whole. I mean, this is we're in some unprecedented times right now.
Very, very. All right, brother. You have anything else?
No, man. I appreciate you having me on.
I know
it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
I feel like we could go on for quite a while.
We'll set up an episode 2.
That sounds like a plan.
All right, brother. Definitely. I know you got to work tonight. Get some rest. Stay safe. Hope you catch a job.
Hope so.
Maybe 2.
That'd be nice.
All right, brother.
All right, bro. Good talking to you.
Talk to you soon.
All right, man.
Bye. All right, everybody. That wraps up run number 6 with firefighter Jason Rivera of the New Haven Fire Department. Have fun. Talk to you next week. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay safe.